All right. Welcome back to another episode of live stream questions and answers piercing with Scott. My name is Scott Wilkinson, and I've been a professional body piercer since 1994. So I'm here just taking all your questions and answering them to the best of my ability and trying to help you with all your problems. Now, behind the camera, who you cannot see, is Jared. So the voice you hear, that is Jared. So hi, Jared. How are you doing today?
I am doing well. How are you doing, Scott?
I'm doing fantastic. Fantastic. So, so when you're asking your questions today, do us a favor. And when you ask them, be as specific as you possibly can. It really helps us out. I need to know how old your piercing is, if you did something to cause the irritation or the problem, what style of jewelry you're wearing, and just any details you can possibly add. So, Jared, anything to add to this?
All right. Well, we have some questions from the people who are to the stream early, so we might as well get started.
Let's
with
jump
them.
right in. Cool.
All right. Obasan wants to know advice you have for someone like them who wants to get a piercing, but they're allergic to silver. Are piercings usually done with silver?
No, they're normally not done with silver. And this is a fantastic way to start the stream. Now, one of the biggest misconceptions when people come in is to say, I can only get pierced with gold because I'm allergic to all metals. Now, when we really break down the allergies, generally what we're looking at nickel. Nickel is the number one metal that people are allergic to. And an easy test to know if this is the case, take like an old nickel, the coin, and older as in like 1975 or 74. I think that's when they're pure nickel. If you like tape it like right to your ditch in your arm, this is a real sensitive area. And if you leave it on there for like maybe 5 minutes and you take it off and there's a huge red welt, you're probably allergic to the nickel. This is what people are allergic to. Now, silver, a lot of people mistake the word silver for the color as opposed to the actual metal. The actual metal is not safe to pierce with. Sterling silver is generally what people are trying to use, but it can create something called silver salts, which gets real toxic to the body. Now, that's a lot of information to come down to when you get pierced with titanium. Generally, no one's allergic to it. It's lightweight, it heals proper, and it's one of the more common materials people pierce with. So not a problem at all to get pierced. Just let your piercer know if you have any allergies, and you should be totally fine. Get pierced with titanium, not silver.
Another really interesting one here from Jetty Media.
Okay.
They want to know, have you ever turned away a client because the piercings they already currently have are poorly taken care of?
Yes and no. If you come in and you're healing too much and you're having problems, I'm not going to add more problems to the situation. Now, if you just came in with a bunch of janky piercings that are all crooked, don't look good, maybe some are rejecting out, but they're all healed and you want a new piercing, this could be your fresh start. And I will do a piercing on someone like that. Now, it's only if they're not healing and they're having problems is the reason why I would turn someone away. If they all look bad, you need to start somewhere.
Would a lesson come with it? Like, for example, if someone came in and say they had like a cluster in their conch with a big old glob of crusty under there, like something the size of a Q-tip.
Yeah.
Would you take that as an opportunity to let them know that they're not cleaning properly? Because they may not even know. They can't see into their own ear. So do you say something about that, or is it embarrassing? Do you not want to say something?
No, they need to know, because if I'm not, the piercer's not the one telling them, who's telling them? You know,
right?
And people are talking behind your back. So clean your piercing so no one's talking behind your back. But like Jared was just saying, if you have a large cluster or something, like there's crusties or make sure you're getting all those out of there. The main reason for your cleaning your piercing, other than keeping the area semi-disinfected, but is getting rid of irritants and irritations like those crusties. But yeah, if someone's having a problem, the piercer should step up and say, hey, what are you doing? Why isn't this healing? Let's figure this out.
Just want to say hi to Kazabo Jangles, and also hi to Ida Leah from Texas.
Yes.
Question. Hey, Scott, would you ever do a video on coin slots?
We've been discussing something like this for quite a while. What do you guys think? Now, I'm a professional body piercer. I don't do the body mods like this. Now, what I was thinking about doing is maybe bringing on an expert who does those body mods, and we can interview those people, maybe some of their specialties. Now, as far as me, I don't have all of the proper answers I would really want to give to you. So I'm going to bring on a professional eventually, and that's how I think we're going to kind of attack this one. I'd love to do it, though. I'd love to learn as much as we can about all forms of body modification.
Very cool.
Yes.
Okay, so we have a question from Daphne. How long should she wait to change the nipple piercings? Right now they have simple barbells, but she'd like to put some cool stones on the ends. How long do you wait before you start messing with them?
Sure. Generally, nipple piercings are kind of a weird timing thing. It's hard to know when they're fully healed up, because for about a week or so, they're really sensitive. For a month, they're like a bruise, but they're generally healed up in probably 3 to 6 months, 4 to 6 months is the average time. Now, everyone's nipple and size is going to be different, and lifestyle is different. And you're going to have crusties that last well over a year, sometimes 2 years. So if it seems pretty well healed and pretty comfortable after like 4 to 6 months, you're totally fine to change it. Now, excuse me, if you're changing to a ring or something like that, you might want to wait a little bit longer so the tissue's a little bit more relaxed. But if you're just changing the beads, it just needs to be mostly healed up. Yeah, 4 to 6 months, definitely okay to do.
Now, how are you going to know for sure if it's healed? Is it a question of it not hurting anymore? Is it a lack of pain? Are you looking for like redness to go away and for it to look normal? Like, what are the clues?
Yes.
So all of those things.
All of those things. You got to look at the overall picture. You're going to get crusties, but as time goes on, they get less and less and less and less. So you just kind of know that it's starting to heal that way. If you have a cut, bump, bruise, something on your body, you kind of know it's there, and eventually you just forget you have it. And that's the whole premise, is like, oh, I just hit my chest real, it didn't hurt. You're probably healed up, but if you're waking up in the morning like, ooh, slept on that one wrong, it's probably not fully healed up yet. Every person's different from case to case. We should have a solid answer for you guys, but you don't know.
So if we have an industrial piercing, still healing, but not irritated at all, is it too soon to change the balls at the end? Because if you're not moving the rod, does that matter?
If you go to a piercer and have it changed for you, probably going to be okay. If you're trying to undo it yourself, you're going to struggle because you need to have specialty tools to get it undone. The reason I say that is one bead's generally tighter than the other. And in order to get the other bead, you have to find a way to hold onto the middle bar to get it unscrewed. And a lot of times you can cause more irritation and agitation to the piercing. So you just got to be careful. If you can do it without causing that problem, it shouldn't be an issue. I'm going to say wait a minimum of 2 months before you even think about changing the beads on this. And if you're causing problems and irritating it, stop.
All right. Stacy says, hey, Scott, big fan.
Hi, Stacy.
Had a septum piercing 8 years ago and had to remove it for a day for a job. It healed, but still hurts when breathing outside in cold weather. Have you heard of this? Would re-piercing help?
I wish I could say re-piercing would help, but I don't know. I don't think it would. It still gets cold in the...
Healed, but still hurts when breathing outside in cold weather.
Sometimes scar tissue, I imagine it's just the scar tissue you're feeling. If that's a problem, the only solution I would have is maybe like a Mederma scar tissue remover.
Or like massaging the area?
Massaging it, breaking it down. I don't condone picking your nose, but I mean, we all do it. Let's get real. But just wash your hands, get some scar tissue remover, or just kind of massage and break it down. Maybe if you got rid of that scar tissue, you might not feel the pain or that sensation, because basically when cold, everything's kind of getting tighter and whatnot. So if everything constricts and you have a large group of scar tissue in there, that would be my guess. Getting it pierced, I don't think that would necessarily help. It's going to be kind of the same situation. So if it's the same situation, just re-pierce it.
So Fidel got a septum piercing yesterday and is finding it a bit painful to make a wide smile. Pretty normal?
Yeah, it's going to be pretty sensitive for a little bit. Now, the pain you're dealing with most likely is going to be the crusties getting pulled in. So make sure your jewelry is cleaned. If you're able to flip it up, if you got a circular barbell that doesn't move around, that typically helps a little tiny bit more. And another thing, I don't know if I've ever mentioned this before, but when you get a new piercing, a new septum piercing, sometimes if you push down on your nose or you kind of push up, kind of like making the pig nose a little bit, you will feel a sharp pinch. So if you smile big, it might be distorting your nose and you're feeling that. I would guess only a couple more days before that sensation should go away. But congratulations on your new piercing.
And Fidel was from Croatia.
Croatia.
Greetings from Croatia.
Wow, absolutely. Greetings. And thanks for watching.
So Dome Slice, a bit of a loaded question, depends on how deeply you want to get into it. What do you think of the APP, if anything? Lol.
Okay. I have lots of opinions on the APP. Almost all are going to be on the better side. The reason I'm saying this is it's promoting health and safety. There's a lot of good morals, ethics, and standards. Now, you don't have to be a member of the APP to still instill all those values, morals as a piercer. The part I don't care about the APP is sometimes there's some politics and some extra stuff that goes along, but that goes along with any large group of people. I think every organization is going to have some drama and some, things like that. That's where I'm going to leave that one. I try to go every year. They have the conference here in Vegas because there's classes. You get to meet new people. It's a fantastic organization. I love it. I love it. And I love all the APP members who are watching. Thanks for watching too.
So I don't know if I fully understand it, but Hannah has a nose piercing and had a lump and the piercing fell out. Should they go to their piercer about the bump? Is that something a piercer can do something about, or is that something that they just need to keep clean themselves?
Nothing the piercer can do. If you have a bump on your piercing and your piercing just came out, the bump's going to go away on its own. Once you get rid of the source of the problem, the issue generally goes away. Now, anytime I've seen a bump on a piercing, you take it out, it's just going to get less and less and less over time, unless you're picking at it. So don't pick at it. Let your body do its thing and let it kind of start dissipating. Now, after a couple weeks, maybe a month or so, if it's not all the way down, again, go get some scar tissue remover, start massaging and breaking it down, and that will bring it back to normal for you. But a piercer really can't do anything for you. If the piercing's gone, it's gone. Yep.
Daphne wants to know if you'd be willing to lean down and show off the head tattoo. They've been trying to figure out what it is this whole time.
I would love to. And it's funny because I'm planning on going to see my friend soon to have this redone. I think I had this originally tattooed in 1996 or 97. And basically what it is, it's kind of a tribal design of a scarab beetle. And there's 4 gems in there. There used to be a lot of yellows, a lot of greens. Almost all of it has fallen out. And as you can see here, am I holding my head in the right way direction?
You are.
Yeah.
Very
So it's a scarab beetle. You kind of see like the arms coming up here if I'm pointing right, little teeth kind of things. And this is more of a design and pattern. But super excited to get some more color and get that redecorated.
Absolutely. Yeah. That'll be a good time for me to take some video of it.
Thanks for noticing too. Yeah.
Okay. Hey, Scott, I'm considering getting an Ashley piercing, but I'm worried about tooth damage. Is there any sort of safe silicone backing to protect the teeth or some kind of alternative material that's tooth safe?
No. Appropriate jewelry size and anatomy is going to be the only thing that's going to really work for you. The reason I'm saying that is any properly threaded or piece of jewelry, like you can't really thread or make the silicone stick to a piece of metal and you can't have that floppy piece of jewelry inside your lip either. So it's all about having a small enough disc, a small enough ball on the end, and downsizing to the appropriate size once you're ready. And also like where it's pierced, if it's rubbing right up against your teeth and you're biting down, you're not going to have any chance of healing that up. So find a good piercer and downsize is going to be your best option. The other thing I want to say about that is a lot of people also think that the plastic and things like that can be better for your teeth. A lot of plastics are dental acrylic and still can do equal amount of damage. So just because you change the metal to a plastic doesn't necessarily mean it's better for you.
So we have a viewer with a severely deviated septum. Is that still something that's pierceable? Is that sort of a case-by-case issue?
It's a case-by-case issue. Now, if the septum's still there, here's what I like to tell people. When you tilt your head back, if your nose is mostly straight and your septum's the part that's crooked, we can kind of angle a little bit and kind of bring it in and maybe make it look right. Now, if it's your whole nose that's deviated and is off to the side and we try to angle that, bring it in towards the middle, it's going to show off how much more crooked your nose is. So that's pretty much what it comes down to is it's still pierceable. It's whether we hit the septum, we might nick the cartilage. If it's deviated enough, it still can heal. It's just a longer healing process.
So can you re-pierce something that rejected earlier? Say it rejected due to an injury and not like bad aftercare or anything. Is it possible to re-pierce? Where's the line at which something is rejected too far and isn't re-pierceable?
Okay, here's the deal with rejection. If it came all the way out like an eyebrow and there's no skin left in there, generally your tissue is only like 70 to 80% as strong as your normal tissue. So if it rejected out once, the second time you're going in, it's even weaker tissue yet. So the chance of rejection actually goes up. So it's not like back in the day, we used to say like, oh, we have all the scar tissue and it's anchoring it in. It doesn't. They still can come out. So if you've had it pierced multiple times and they keep rejecting, it's not going to work. Now, sometimes like for a nipple piercing, if it rejected out, sometimes you can pierce at a slightly different angle. So you're not hitting as much of that scar tissue and you still have the normal tissue. That can work for you, but You can re-pierce it. It's just there's still a high risk of rejection.
So if you catch it early, as soon as you notice something's rejecting, if you get it out of there.
Correct. So you still have normal tissue in front of it. It's just rejected a little. You have a little line of scar tissue. But if it comes all the way out and it completely splits, it's not likely you'll be able to get it.
So you have to catch that early. Yeah. Anyone who thinks something might be rejecting, they want to get that out early.
I tell everyone, use your camera phone. Almost everyone has a camera phone. Take a picture when you first get it. Take a picture a month later, maybe a couple months later. If it seems like your skin's getting less and less and less in the middle, your body's rejecting the piercing. Now, you can't see that. Every day you look at it, you're going to see your belly button piercing like, oh, it's beautiful, it's beautiful. But if you look at that, month to
side-by-side comparison.
Wow, my bar's really getting long. Like, no, your skin's getting less. It's coming out. So use your camera phones, people. I know you like to use them.
Keep track.
Yeah.
Okay. So Michelle got a nose piercing about 2 months ago. Everything was going just fine. But now we have a cold and all the Kleenex usage has caused a bump. So are there any tips for avoiding this kind of thing? For other people who just recently got a piercing and help them avoid a similar fate?
All I can really say is just be gentle with your tissues. It's something I haven't really looked into, but maybe if the tissue has lotions and extra stuff to help kind of soothe that area, if it's stuff you don't want inside an open wound, that could be part of the problem. But if you're 2 months into your piercing, it shouldn't really be an open wound anymore. And it's probably just being irritated from you just constantly blowing your nose. You just got to be gentle. And that's bad timing. That's all that is.
Just bad. Because nose blowing is violent too. That would send a lot of vibrations through your nostril and all that stuff.
And another thing to keep in mind is you need to be healthy when you get pierced. If you are already healing a bunch of piercings, that's why I cut people off after so many piercings. Your immune system gets weaker and weaker as we're trying to heal so many things. And if your immune system's weaker, you're more prone and more likely to get that cold or flu or whatever virus might be going around. So that's also a factor. So if you're getting a lot of piercings and things like that, multivitamins, and just try to be healthy. It's bad timing. Sorry to hear that, but stick with it. It will get better.
And the bump will most likely, if it's caused by the Kleenex, then once you stop blowing your nose all the time, the bump should go back away.
Irritation goes away, exactly. So vitamin C to get rid of the cold, to get rid of the bump.
There you go. 4D chess.
Yes.
All right. Danique from the Netherlands would like to know how long to avoid sleeping on a new ear piercing.
Sure. Hi from the Netherlands. I'm sorry, what did you say? Monique?
Danique.
Danique. All right. How long to avoid sleeping on a new piercing?
On an ear specifically.
On an ear. Yeah, it's really, really difficult. If you can avoid it, your piercing's always just going to heal much, much better. Now, earlobes generally heal in a month and a half, maybe 2 months, but cartilage sometimes takes all the way up to a year. I tell most of my clients that on a perfect situation for cartilage, you're going to be healed up in 4 to 6 months, but that's the perfect situation. You're not sleeping on it. Your hair's not getting in there. It's not being bumped or irritated. It's pretty tough to do. So do your best. That's all I can really say. Sometimes getting like one of those neck pillows like for on the plane, so you actually have a little hole in the middle, like a little donut. Some people take a towel, roll it up into a ball, same thing, kind of create the donut. I find a way to create a little thing for my arm to go in there so I actually protect my ear. But
it's funny you say that. That's the next question coming up from Lenore from Portugal is that exact question. What do you think of the pillows that have the little hole in them so you can sleep with your ear down inside the donut? You recommend stuff like that?
Yes, I do have my 2 cents on this one. Make sure you get something that can be cleaned. Sometimes you're going to find these blow up pillows or things that are just completely soft fabric and can't be washed. If you have crusties and stuff that might be touching or getting on there, that's a bacteria trap. You got to be able to clean these pillows as well. But yes, they work super, super good. And I wish someone would invent a piercing pillow, one that can be cleaned, one that has that little spot for it. It'd be amazing.
So just this product specifically made for piercing.
Yes.
Smart.
Yeah.
What's the recommended number of piercings to get in one sitting?
The recommended number.
Or maximum is probably what they mean.
Yeah. It depends on what you're doing. If you're only doing one ear, I would do maybe 5 to 6 piercings on one ear at the max to be healing all those up properly. Now, if you want to do some on this ear, maybe your belly button and some, when you're spreading them out, that makes it even tougher yet. So I generally say between 4 and 6, and depending on how long they take to heal and your lifestyle, you got to remember that.
So if you're piercing a bridge, do we use a curved barbell or a straight one?
Straight.
Straight barbell every time.
Straight barbell almost every time. I've had curves in mind that causes them to reject right out.
Which way would the curve face? Inward, right? Would you ever do it the other way where the curve tried to
always
follow?
going to curl outwards is how it's going. It would never follow. And if you're doing a curve to curve inwards because of the bone, you should not be getting that piercing in the first place because you can get bone erosion on the bridge. So if you can't put just a straight bar in there and it resting in there naturally on its own, you shouldn't be getting a pierce. So wear a straight one, make sure it's deep enough, but not up against the bone.
Very cool.
Yeah.
So Josh loves beats. First of all, says hi to both of us.
Hi, Josh.
And is wondering if any piercing can be stretched. Like they know that certain areas could reject and such, but is there any areas that are just unstretchable?
Not in my experience. Now, that comes with a huge clause. Yes, you can overdo things. You can mess things up really, really bad. You can't just stretch willy-nilly whatever you want. For example, I broke my tragus. A kid came in a long time ago and he actually had his rook pierced and he had it stretched up to a 2 gauge. And I was just like, you can't stretch cartilage like that. What are you doing? You know, he's like, well, I did it. Well, my young self decided, well, if he can do it, I can do it. So I just started, stretching my tragus. I was working the shop. I kept going bigger and bigger. Once I went from 6 to the 4, I heard a crack and a snap. And my ear has been permanently cracked, and I have 2 separate little things inside there now. So you can overdo things. You can break things. You can cause them to reject if things get too tight. So you got to be careful.
But even the awkward, you've heard of people stretching bridges. You've heard of people stretching eyebrows and labrets and all of these things.
Correct. Yes.
Interesting.
I'm planning on doing a stretching series where we talk about all the stretchable piercing. Virtually everything's stretchable, but like you're just talking about a bridge. If I was to stretch my bridge, chances of it rejecting is going to go through the roof. Like I've rejected so many of these bridge piercings, any irritation is going to cause it to reject. On the other hand, I've seen a guy on the internet who has like a 0 gauge plug through there.
Just depends on how stretchable your skin is.
Yeah, you don't know. Just because you've seen it and it's been done doesn't mean it should be.
That's often true.
That's the best advice I can give for anything in life. Yeah, great question. You can stretch most anything. Should you? Probably not. You got to be careful.
Heidi likes the jewelry change, going with the all gold.
Thank you. Thanks for noticing. I need to change mine more often. I love the gold look.
Now, Elusive Brick says, I want to stretch my ears, specifically dead stretching, since I've heard that it's better. But I'm wondering if I should start with tapers because I'm not entirely sure how I'd start with dead stretching.
I'm not sure I understand what dead stretching you're talking about.
Would you like me to do a little search while we move on?
Yeah, let's kind of figure that out. Dead stretching, I mean, either you like pierce initially and then stretch to large size like I would do a 0 gauge earlobe. But if you're talking about like just taking an existing piercing and running a series of tapers through there, just like to go to the size you need to right away, do not do this. This is a terrible idea. You're going to end up ripping your ear. It's going to make your piercings grow crooked. The chance of the blowouts blowing the inside of your ear out the back and having a huge bump and scarring is terrible. Don't do it this way. A proper stretch with a healed piercing is between 1.5 months and 2 months between each size. So, like I said,
what the internet's telling us is that dead stretching is the process of putting a larger piece of jewelry into the piercing, and it's only advisable if it fits without pressure. Otherwise, you risk a blowout. So it seems like this is kind of what you recommend, where you just wear a size until it's naturally a little loose and then slide the new one in.
Yes, dead stretching. See, even I'm learning something new every day here. That's cool. Yeah, that's the way it should be done. If you think of all these tribes all over the world that have these huge, huge plugs in their ears, that didn't happen overnight. That's a gradual thing. And you're also going to notice the people who have the biggest plugs in their lips or their ears or wherever it might be, they're generally the elders of the tribe because they've been doing it the longest.
So it's not about pain tolerance and who roughed through it. It's about who's been doing this for 40 years.
Correct. But at the same time, it wasn't a painless procedure when they got it done. If they're in the jungle, like let's find the right size thorn to shove through here, and jewelry doesn't come thin there.
No, I'm sure this thorn selection process is very involved. So, why is changing a piercing for the first time always so difficult? Some people find that they have difficult undoing the threading on the jewelry that first time. Is it because piercers put it on so tight?
Well, first of all, we try to put it on tight so it doesn't come off. I tell all my clients who have threaded jewelry on there to check your beads on a daily basis just to make sure they stay tight. The longer you have your piercing, the longer oils from your skin, shampoos, soaps, any sort of body product like that could get in there and create a seal and lock it into place a little bit better. That's why it's so tough. Now, the second thing is once you have your piercing for a while and you've changed it a couple times, you know the angles you need to go at, how to grab it. The first time it's just awkward because you're like, how do I hold my eyebrow piercing? And do I twist it this way? Once you have it now, it's just like, bam, you take it out and it's no big deal. So I think a lot of it's comfort level, but the other thing is you've had it in for a while, or you should have had it in for a while to where all that fluids kind of create a seal and lock it into place.
So Egg Girl Comics is asking a question about finding blood vessels in a nose when not visible. When you're piercing a nostril, are you concerned about blood vessels? Are you actively trying to avoid them or not really?
I'm not trying to avoid them at all. There's going to be blood vessels throughout your entire body. This is the blood flow, so you get all the white blood cells so you can heal piercings up. Now, in my experience, whenever I've been pierced and my piercings have bled more, hence we hit a little blood vessel, capillary, something like that, hopefully not an artery, but they heal faster. You're getting the blood flow. That's why cartilage takes so long to heal. There's not a lot of blood flow to the area. So if you hit that cartilage, or not hit the cartilage, but hit a vessel, they typically heal a little bit better. Now, I'm not saying aim for vessels. Don't do that. Do the piercing where it's supposed to be. And if it just happens to nick one, it's not a big deal.
So you're not like peeking through ears with flashlights, like looking for blood vessels or anything like that?
Some I am. Now, like a conch, if it's really, really thick, I might like take a little bit of light just to see if there's something you might want to avoid it. But like for a nostril, there's absolutely nothing you can do about that. Yeah. Helix piercing, like up on the top here where I have my punch. I had made the story on that, didn't I? About how I bled and had to go to the
hospital. You ended up punching through a bunch.
Veins. Map it out. Map it out if you're doing something like that. But a normal nostril piercing, nothing to worry about.
It's most likely going to push things out of the way anyhow, rather than.
Yes. Now, on the other hand, high nostril piercings don't pierce too big. That's a lesson learned. I think mine was originally done at a 14 gauge. There's actually an artery up there a little further back. It was a mess.
A little squirt type thing.
Squirt. It was, yeah. So lesson learned, don't pierce large, high nostrils.
So Kieran O'Sullivan is here, and he sent us a cool video of him getting a nasolang. Yes. Do we want to watch it?
You know what? I'm going to let you know I already seen it, and it's really, really awesome.
Well, can the rest of us watch it?
Please, we got to show this. So Kieran got his nasolang pierced. We've been kind of talking, and he sent me the video and the picture here. Can you show the picture first so they can kind of see what's going on here?
Yep, give me just a second.
Sorry, we're throwing Jared off here. But yeah, he sent us a video and a picture of his nasolang. Now, the bar is long. You have to have room for swelling. And by the way, Kieran, how's it healing up? How's it feeling? You'll see in the video here. It looks pretty awesome.
There we go.
Yes. So you can see he got his nasolang pierced. What an honor. Like, that is so rad. You don't see a lot of these. So, but now you guys want to see the video of this?
Yes. Let's jump to that video.
All right. Hang on here a second.
And we are here.
All right. So we're zoomed in here a little bit. And now also, as we're getting this done, this isn't the type of needle I would use. This is a cannula needle, which is basically they pierce, they take the needle out, they go in with the scissors. This isn't how we do this in America. This is.
Is it much different, or is it a small technique thing? Because, I mean, basically putting a needle through your nasolang is the same no matter which side of the ocean you're on, right?
Yes. It's still going to hurt. Now, he says it doesn't really hurt that much. Look at that smile on his face.
I mean, that smile says it doesn't hurt very much.
That is so golden. I think right here, we're removing, I believe, the needle part of it, and then we're able to kind of slide the jewelry. I think that's how
I think that's the jewelry. The jewelry followed the needle. It seems like the jewelry was attached and followed right through behind the needle.
Yeah, I've never actually used one of these cannula needles, but this is how they do it in Europe and Australia. I'm not sure exactly where he's from. But yeah, that was an extremely fast nasolang piercing with that smile. It obviously didn't hurt that much. Now, we don't have the audio going here, but he did say that it hurt less than a scaffold. The scaffold, that industrial across the side to side. So it's a lot of tissue, but I mean, look at that smile there.
Right.
Yeah, that's the real deal, people. That's the real deal. So thanks for letting us show that video. That is
quick look at the
rad.
Finished product. Very cool, Kieran, and thank you so much for sharing that with us.
And congratulations. Wow. Really cool. All right, cool.
All right. So, hi from Brazil.
Hi.
Love your
world,
videos,
that's
and
so
she loves our voices.
Thank you.
About lost lobes, is it possible to enlarge them with hyaluronic acid fillers or something so that it looks normal again? So, like in your case, is there anything that we could like put lip injections in your ears or something and puff those lobes back out? Is that a real thing?
I would say yes. I don't have the solid answer for this, but a long time ago when I had my earlobes removed, it was around 2000-ish. I don't remember the exact year. But anyways, I was looking into like filling in something, and there was something New Life, or I don't remember what the brand was, but the way it was explained to me is like it's like the scaffold. Like you got this basic building blocks of tissue, and they can inject it in there, and then your body just fills in the gaps, so it kind of creates tissue. Sometimes when people have like a skin graft on the body, they will inject this, and it fills it back in, because you notice how sometimes the skin sinks in.
Yeah.
So it is supposedly, now this is 20 years ago. I imagine leaps and bounds in technology. I don't know the exact answer, but I imagine it would be, and I would like to look into that, because if I could have my earlobes pierced again, see, there's nothing left on here.
Now, I don't know, if we puffed it up with filler, you wouldn't necessarily want to re-pierce it, would you?
You wouldn't want to do like lip filler. It has to be something where it creates the new tissue back to a normal tissue again. It's not just like the collagen or, liposuction, or, the way they
just where they're like, because that's what I'm imagining
yeah.
is them just like puffing it full of some other material.
I believe it has to be like that building block structure of the tissue where all the necessary things kind of fill. That was my understanding. And again, this was 20 plus years ago, but if they did this 20 years, it existed. It has to be something. I'll look into it a little bit more. I'm really curious on it too. Good question, but I don't have the answer for you today.
So Yuta Dog got double helix piercings about 3 months ago.
Mm-hmm.
Still sensitive to the touch.
Yes.
That's normal?
Yes. Helix piercings, I'm assuming you got two on one side. If you got them right next to each other, they swell, puts pressure on the other one, which causes the other one to swell. And these take a long time to heal. 6 months to a year to heal. Two right next to each other might even be longer. Now, if you did get one on this side and one on this side, that means you're probably sleeping on one of them, hence tenderness too. Cartilage takes a long time. Everyone always assumes that this is the easier one. It's a real basic piercing, but they take a while. So yeah, be patient, keep cleaning, you're on track.
Relisty says, your shirt is fabulous.
Thank you.
So the Spicy Cowboy is getting a septum piercing, and they're worried that their piercer may nick that cartilage, as you've mentioned. There's a sweet spot you can hit, and if your piercer's a little off, they're going to hit cartilage. It's going to hurt worse. Is there anything that the Spicy Cowboy can say to the piercer or do that would help prevent this from happening, or is he just got to put his faith in the hands of the piercer and let them do?
Okay, don't freak your piercer out. You better get this straight. Like, okay, one of the most stressful things I've ever had to go through, this newscaster came to me. It was a long time ago, and she's like, look, I'm on the news. Millions of people are seeing my ears. So-and-so, like, I went to a doctor, they messed it up. I had it sewn up. I went to another doctor, they messed it up. It's sewn up. Now I'm coming to you as a professional. This needs to be straight.
That's what you want.
That's not fair. Not fair at all. So don't go to your piercer and say, hey, this has to be straight. This has to be. Just let them do their job. Go to qualified piercer, and it's going to be a good experience. Yeah, we say it might hurt a little bit more, but on a scale of 1 to 10, going from like a 3 to maybe a 4 or a 2 to a 3, you don't know what that 2 or 3, it doesn't matter. So just find a good piercer, and you're going to be just fine.
Now, Carabo got a tragus about a year ago, and it's still not healed completely. Is that normal?
No, that's not normal. There is a problem somewhere. First guess I'm going to say is, are you wearing earphones, earbuds, or anything that goes in your ear? Stethoscopes, things like this constantly keep the irritation on there. Number 2, is your jewelry way too long or way too short? If it's getting sucked in, or if you have way too much it's moving back and forth, that's also going to cause the irritation. And are you putting anything else on there? Like, if you don't think it's healed, sometimes people are still peroxide and all these other chemicals, leaving it just raw. So sometimes you just need to leave it be if that's the case.
If you had a paper cut, you wouldn't keep putting chemicals on it every day. You'd let it heal.
Now, the only other thing I would say is, if you have a bad quality piece of jewelry in there, maybe a mystery metal, if there's a nick, burr, something on there that's just causing the problem, change the jewelry. Maybe the jewelry is the problem.
So that would make it like a scratch on the barbell or something could just be internally wrecking
the wearing surface, and if there's a big scratch in the middle, of course it's not healing.
That makes a lot of sense.
So
Lena wants to know if this is too many piercings to get at once. 2 lobes, a septum, and a labret. Or is it okay to go ahead and get all 4 of those at one sitting?
I say go for it. The earlobes generally a month and a half to 2 months to heal up. They're fairly easy to heal. Septum, really fast healer, almost in the same time frame as your earlobes. And a labret, you're just going to have a fat lip for a week and a half, week to week and a half, and then you're back to normal. So that's a fairly easy combo. I would do it. Yeah, go for it.
So Conky got a conch done a few weeks ago and plans on getting a doth done in the same ear and a rook done in the other ear. How would you timeline that out? Like what order would you do that in? Or would you do it all at once? Would you give yourself some time to sleep on one side before you did the other?
They wanted to do a doth in the one with the conch?
So we already have a conch and we want to do a doth on that same ear.
Yes.
And then do a rook on the other side.
That's what I would do. I would go to the doth first, because if you're still technically healing the conch or whatever, you're kind of dealing with one healing process and it's a side to sleep on. The doth heals a little faster than a lot of the other ones. The rook's a fairly easy one too, but you want a side to sleep on. So if you already can't sleep on that conch, get it on that side, gives you a little extra time to heal those things up properly. And once you find yourself sleeping on it and it's healed up enough, go ahead and do the rook. The rook's also a fairly easy one to heal up, but I mean, give yourself that side to sleep on. Don't trap yourself on your face or your back.
Now, Maddie got her conch done 5 entire hours ago, and it still hurts when she moves her head. Would you consider that to be normal?
Yes. Your piercing, your body recognizes that wound has happened. It is a wound, and it's swelling up and putting a lot of pressure on your piercings. So ibuprofen, Aleve, Advil, some sort of anti-inflammatory.
One of them, not all of them, right?
Yes. Did I say or I say and?
I don't know.
If I said and, I'm sorry. One or the other, yeah. But some sort of anti-inflammatory. And if it's really, really sore, you can always take some cold water and just kind of dip your ear in that cold water and try to soak it for a couple minutes, and that'll take the edge off there for you. It will get better. Just be patient with it. You said it was a conch piercing?
Yes.
Okay. Be aware of masks. If you're wearing a mask and the mask is rubbing up against your conch, it's going to keep it upset the whole time. There are mask extenders, which kind of put it across the back of your neck, or sometimes they tie up above and tie below. There's a lot of different ways, but make sure the mask isn't causing the problem too.
Now, Anna's got an odd question here. Let's try to figure this out.
Sure.
I'm planning to stretch my ears and also get vertical lobe piercings. Is there any chance that the piercings are going to get crooked because of the stretch? Love your sweet personality.
Why, thank you very much. So what we're talking about here, vertical lobe piercings.
So stretched lobes and vertical lobes.
Now, what I was thinking, I'm going to use an ear for an example here. Now, what I was thinking vertical lobes is, are you talking about doing like a transverse, like up through the ear? So it's like from here to here. Otherwise, are you talking about stretching this and then just doing a top piercing above it? I'm not 100% sure. It depends on how big you're planning on going with the lobes. Like if you're just doing a single high lobe piercing, like a stacked piercing with a stretched one on the bottom, you should be able to do this. Now, you're not going to want to stretch your piercing while that upper one is healing. You need to let it fully heal before you're actually stretching. Now, if you're doing a vertical piercing up and down transverse through the lobe and you're stretching, that's going to alter the tissue and it's not going to really work. You would need to be stretched and then do the vertical piercing. That might have been confusing. I hope that was clear enough.
It's okay. Sometimes you got to give a confusing answer to a confusing question.
I'm a confusing guy. Okay.
Okay. So Bo is getting some snake bites done on Saturday. Is there anything that they can do to minimize damage to the teeth and gums?
Yes. Downsize your jewelry once the swelling's gone down and it's healed up enough. Generally, I tell people minimum 3 to 4 weeks. Listen to your piercer. Depends on where you're from, because sometimes climate, the environment, there's a lot of different factors which allow us to downsize at kind of different times, the amount of swelling. So downsize eat slower for this next month while you have those longer ones in there. You're eating fast. You're excited about your food. I know I get excited about my food. That's when I do damage to my teeth by chomping down on it. So eat slower and everything should be fine for you.
And playing with it. Like don't rattle it against the inside of your teeth
Obviously.
like cups on jail bars.
Yeah, don't get cups on jail bars.
Yeah, then they used to do that? Yeah.
I don't think they use cups anymore. But yeah, don't play with it and downsize your jewelry.
All right. So, Nicole wants an update on us getting our body jewelry website together, and we are working on that diligently. We're hoping to have some results for you soon enough.
Yeah, we don't have them yet. We got way too many things on our.
And do we plan on offering international shipping? We're not sure of the details. We're going to try because we know we have a lot of international fans that would want to be able to get a hold of things that are difficult to find wherever they live. So that is something we're going to try to figure out.
We've been working with the shipping and things like that because we want to be able to ship things as cheap as possible, give you the best deal. Because sometimes you don't want to like get a good deal on some jewelry and spend how much money on shipping to get it out. So there's a lot of little things we're just working out and we want to get it right. Hopefully sooner than later. But we'll let you know as soon as we have any more details.
So we have another person here who got a tragus pierced last summer, still swollen and red. Clean it more, leave it alone more. What do you think?
Last summer, so more than...
So like a year.
Still swollen and red. Again, if you're wearing earphones, earbuds, stethoscopes, things going in your ear, that could be the problem. If that's not the case, maybe change out your jewelry. Figure out what it is. It could be you're allergic to the metal. It could be a nick or a burr. If you have a ring in there, maybe it's like too tight. You have to go a bigger ring. It's hard to say, but I'd talk to your piercer. A year's too long to be healing up a tragus.
So Glitch wants to know, why are their ear piercing holes black? What could cause your actual piercing holes to turn colors? Is that a jewelry metal thing or?
Okay. So what you're talking about here, we started out this conversation, our live chat with a silver question.
Yes.
And that's what it comes down to. Now, when you get wearing sterling silver earrings, a lot of times you look at your earrings, you're going to see that black on there. That is oxidizing. And it's actually, when you wear that, it seeps into your skin and tattoos your skin. So wearing sterling silver earrings can be a problem if you're not constantly cleaning your jewelry to get all that black off there because it tattoos the skin. I see this all the time and I'm warning people, cheaper earrings, if it starts turning black, get it out. It's tattooing your skin. Sometimes it wipes off, but if you've had it in there long enough, you have to almost go get tattoo removal to get that black out of your ear piercing.
So that black can end up permanent. When you see that, you want to do something about it quickly.
You've now been tattooed. So yeah, you need to be careful on the quality of jewelry you put in your ears.
So it has everything to do with the actual jewelry you have. And if you switch to like some titanium jewelry, that will stop being an issue.
Titanium will not tattoo your skin. It will not oxidize like that. It will not cause those problems.
All right.
Yeah.
So it's a question of the metal you're using, Glitch.
Yep. I don't know if gold can do this, but I know gold can oxidize too. Now, when you're using 14 karat gold, it's only 14 parts of gold per 24. So there's other metals in there. So if it's oxidizing, I know it changes color. Because I had one in my tragus for a while and we actually had to remove it because it was dark in there. And I just, you polish it up and all that goes away and put it back in. It's normal. But if I would have left it in, I wonder if that gold would have tattooed.
So if you have precious metal jewelry, it's almost more important to take it out and polish it once in a while over something like a titanium.
For sure. Yes.
Very interesting. We all learn stuff here. So can a ring piercing cause migration? And when downsizing, can I use a ring piercing? Cool tattoos.
Thank you. It depends on what piercing you're talking about. Rings can work totally fine in an earlobe, a lip piercing, a nostril piercing, but I used to have rings. I had 2 rings in my bridges for a while, or circular barbells, and it caused them to reject right out. They were just sitting in an unnatural angle. Whenever people put rings in their eyebrows, it tends to cause the rejection rate to go through the roof again. Just because we're doing a straight piercing and then you put a curve in there, it's changing the shape of your overall skin and the healed fistula. So sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. When they're straight through like a nostril or a cartilage, they work better than something like a surface piercing, a bridge, eyebrow. I have to look at Jared to kind of figure out what else would.
Right.
Yeah. So it's kind of different. Like nipples typically work pretty well as long as the nipple actually protrudes and there's enough tissue in there. So just keep your eye on the tissue and make sure it's not rejecting out. Yeah.
So we have a question from Cannibal. She had an unfortunate incident where she was at she was at an Exhumed show on Saturday.
Okay.
And she's up front and some guy stage dived and kicks her right in her left dimple piercing. So it starts bleeding and now she's got an irritation bump. She cleaned it and used tea tree oil.
Uh-huh.
What do you think? Is there anything else she can do?
I'm not a fan of tea tree oil. Some people swear by it. I don't think it works the way we actually want it to. The big thing is what the irritation's gone. That boot hopefully is not still in your face. And I've ripped my conch piercing before. I'll never forget that time I got kicked and ripped. It hurts so bad. But yeah, if that happens, you're going to have to probably put a longer bar in there. I'm sure it's swollen. Accommodate room for the swelling. If your post is too short and you have that bump, it's keeping that irritation happening. So lengthen the bar. If you use any sort of oil, I like the emu oil. I'm not a fan of the tea tree. But the big thing is to just keep it clean, give room for the swelling, and just baby it. Hopefully it goes back real soon for you.
Very cool. So Baldur got a bridge piercing in the beginning of October, and the bar seems a bit long now, 1 centimeter or 2.
Wow. Yes.
So that time to downsize. How do you know the difference between like I need to downsize and I'm rejecting? Because they both evidence themselves as the bars seeming longer, right?
Well, when we do bridge piercings, they do swell quite a bit. And so we always have to accommodate room for that. Just like the nasaline, you're going to have to give that room. He's probably filling up a lot of that post, which
but
is crazy,
eventually he'll
think. But then you're going to want to downsize. But if you said 1 centimeter or 2, I mean,
that's
I'm
about
an
an
American.
inch.
I don't know the metric that well. That's
nearly an inch. Yeah,
that's way too much. So you need to downsize. I would go in and have it downsized right away. That's too much. That's going to cause more problems having it that long.
And we actually did get an update from Kieran, who had the nasaline. He said
Yes.
it's still doing great, and he's from the United Kingdom. That's where
United Kingdom's cool.
Okay,
Thanks for
so
letting us show your video. It's really cool of you.
so
Threw you off.
we are currently at 7.5 millimeters with a stretch septum.
Okay.
What are your views on septum denting? And how do I know when this will start to happen? I only jump 0.5 millimeters each time. So explain to me what septum denting is. What are we talking about?
The term septum denting, I am not 100% familiar with, but I know that once you start stretching your septum, it changes the shape of your nose. So the bigger you go, it might start pushing it down a little bit further. For me, when I was stretching my nostrils started coming down further because we don't remove tissue. It's like crescent incision, and you're kind of pushing that tissue off to the way. So if your septum starts dropping down, it's like piercing rejection. You're not going to notice it on a day-to-day basis, but you should take a picture between each stretch so you can compare them. And if it, you'll be able to see it that way. But when you do the stretching, it's going to be a little swollen. You look in the mirror, you're excited to have the new Jewy, but you're not going to notice it. So, and it will shrink up and it should go back to pretty much normal as long as you don't go too crazy big. But yeah, stretching piercings will alter and change the shape of the piercing of the part of your body you're stretching.
If you become pregnant with a navel piercing, do you have to take it out?
Yes.
How come?
Yes. Number one priority is going to be the baby. Always first and foremost, the baby. I don't care if it took you a while to heal your piercing up and you struggled, baby's number one. That's my opinion, and I'm not changing on that one. Now, number two, they do sell retainers made for navel piercings for pregnancy. This is a bad idea. They're tougher and tougher to find because they don't work. Now, when you have your belly button piercing in there and your tummy comes out, that skin is getting tight, really, really tight, and it's pushing on that belly ring. Now, your belly ring is going to start stretching out, and then it's going to start discoloring, and there's a good chance it will reject all the way out. So not only is it going to reject out, but you're going to have a way bigger scar because of this. My suggestion to you is to leave it in until you start showing, or it seems like the bar is starting to get a little bit tight, then just take the jewelry out. Sometimes the piercing stays open, and once you have your baby and everything goes back to normal, we can put it right back in. Sometimes it needs to be re-pierced, but baby's priority number one.
So Michaela has had a conch for 5 months, still tender to the touch. No bumps, no inflammation, just that little bit of soreness. Still on track, still normal?
Maybe. You're right around that healing time where it should be, for the most part, being pretty healed. But if you have a real sharp pinch, or if you're having, figure out why. Is it a crusty? Is it the jewelry? Is it just because you slept on it wrong that night? If these are, so these are
because you're
factors.
touching it all the time.
Yeah, I mean, they're all factors. If it's just a little tender because you slept on it, not a big deal. But if you're like, all of a sudden it's like, ow, it really, really hurts, and you can't see the crusties on there, that could be the jewelry. It could be a defect in the jewelry. It's really hard to say until you actually see it.
Check it out.
Yeah.
So Autumn wants to know, how long does it take to kiss again after a vertical or a Brett? Asking for a friend.
4 years.
4 years? That's a long time, Scott.
Everyone stopped getting that piercing, didn't they? Any piercing is technically an open wound for at least a month. Keep that in mind. So if you're kissing strangers, all those germs going directly inside there. Also, you're trying to heal a piercing, and just mixing germs like that's a bad idea. So I'm going to say at least a month for any sort of wet kissing, open mouth kissing. If you just want to give someone a kiss on the cheek, it wouldn't be the end of the world, but be very careful about it.
Still an open wound. You don't want to necessarily mop it around.
It's just be careful about it. Yeah.
So Missy's thinking about getting a coin slot, but doesn't actually heal very well in general. So do you think it's a bad idea? And how do you go about finding a body modifier?
Okay. Not sure how you heal very well. Are you talking just piercings in general? Are you talking general wounds? Are you healthy enough to heal this? This is something to consider, because a coin slot, for those of you who don't know, let me draw on a paper here. So basically, when you have an ear, let's see if I can draw an ear. Oh, it's not too bad.
That's pretty good. That's ear-like in nature.
Yeah. So anyways, you would do an incision like here to here, okay? And you're going to suture it. So this is a long slit in the ear, so you can wear a series of rings going around in there. You can wear a ton of them. They look super, super, super cool. But it's done with a scalpel, sutured shut, and then you have to heal this up. So if you have problems healing things up, this is a lot bigger than a normal earlobe piercing. You might want to talk to them about it. Now, as far as finding a good modification artist, that's tough to do. You're going to have to hit up forums online, see who styles you like. Maybe go on Instagram, Google, just find the different things, type in ear slots and see whose name keeps popping up. And if there's one you really like, it's worth traveling to them.
Now, depending on the state, the legality could be in question also, right? Isn't this sort of a gray area in a lot of places?
It is a gray area in a lot of areas. So you got to do your homework there. A lot of times these modification artists will travel and do guest spots, and they let people know, like, I can't do these here because these are illegal, or can't do this. But find the artist, talk to them, and see what they say. They might be coming to a state close to you or a city close to you, and you might be able to get it done. You might have to travel across the country or to get it done too. It's really hard to say, but go by reputation. Just because they say they do it doesn't mean they're good, and they're not regulated.
So there's no one verifying that they do a good, clean job. They might be a
professional body piercer, but that doesn't qualify you to use a scalpel and sutures and all that fun stuff too. So do your homework. It's a little bit of a gamble, but if you find the right person, it's really cool.
So Marina from Croatia would like to know, if you're a person who blows their nose every single day, is it a bad idea to get a nose piercing just because you're likely to irritate it, or do you think that could be worked around? You
work around it. I have a lot of sinus issues, and I'm constantly blowing my nose, and I have all these piercings. It's just a little bit more work. The healing process might be a little bit more irritating, so you got to be careful not getting the tissue caught on there and so forth. Now, if you're blowing your nose 20, 30 times a day, yeah, that's the problem. You're not going to be able to heal your piercing up, but once, twice a day, it's not a big deal. It should be fine.
So Coco wants to know, they've had nipple piercings in the past. So when getting them re-pierced, do you want to go directly through that same scar tissue, or is it better to choose a different line or angle?
If they rejected, you want to find a different path. Now, if you just took him out because you didn't like him anymore, needed a change, and you were happy with that old placement, go in the same spot.
So as long as it didn't come through the front, you can re-pierce the same
absolutely.
dot of scar.
If the placement was good and you just took it out because you just needed a change or you took it out for medical and they closed up on you, just get them in the same spot. Totally safe.
So Kayla's septum piercing still smells bad even after a year and a half. Cleans it every day in the shower. Is this just a thing?
Yeah, it's totally a thing. Sometimes people have stretched earlobes and they get that funky smell. Sometimes it's nostrils, and it definitely happens with septums too. Here's the secret. Now, basically, the oils from your body, shampoos, things like that, kind of start seeping in there, and you're smelling that dead skin, dead thing, and it's got a funky smell. Now, it's an oil that's secreting into the metal. So let's take another oil, a natural cooking oil like vegetable oil, olive oil, peanut oil, something that smells good. Rub that into the metal, and that's going to mask and cover it and get rid of that funky smell.
Okay, so you're
Totally
saying
helps.
actually oil your jewelry itself.
Yes, with a natural cooking oil, not car oil, not 10W30, please.
But like a coconut oil or an olive oil.
Something, just rub that in there, and that should pull that smell right out of there for you. You should be good to go for a long period of time, and if you start smelling it again, same thing. Olive oil is my personal favorite.
So Gigi Allen has had their eyebrow pierced 3 times. After the first time, it was ripped out, and it's mostly scar tissue now. Are there going to be problems re-piercing it for the 4th time?
Yeah, it's probably going to be rejected out, but if you're Gigi Allen, you wouldn't care. If you don't know who Gigi Allen is, don't do your homework on that one. Basically, if they reject out, it's just thin tissue. It's just going to keep coming. So maybe move it over a little tiny bit. I don't know why they keep rejecting out for you. If your skin's really taut and you can't get the tissue to come out, some people just aren't pierceable on the eyebrow piercing like that. So if they reject it out, it might not be a good candidate. Maybe think about a surface bar. Maybe do a vertical surface bar across the top, because if you have that flat bar in there and the skin's more taut, that might work out better for you.
So Jenny Nicky just got a smiley, and they love it. But they heard that they eventually reject, and they heard that 1 year was about the max length of time you could have one. You agree with that, or a little longer?
Max, no. Average lifespan, probably maybe a year to a couple years. I've seen longer. So as far as max, no, but they most likely will reject over time. Now, if you put a small ring in there, something lightweight like titanium, something that's not going to be causing the irritation, you could have it for a long, long period of time. Every person's anatomy is different on this one. I've seen it before where it's literally like a piece of paper in there. And if it's that thin, it's not going to stay there very long. But I've also seen it where there's a little bit of tissue in there, like a little thicker, where it can actually anchor it in there a little bit better. So it depends on your anatomy, how much tissue you have there, how much you're playing with it, and what you're wearing for jewelry. A lot of factors.
Kiwi got a snake eyes piercing yesterday, and it's crooked. Is it supposed to be slightly crooked, or like how can you like it with a tongue? You know what I mean? How do you
snake eyes?
Snake eyes.
Okay. I don't do snake eye piercings. Is it supposed to be crooked? No. No piercing is supposed to be crooked. So, but here's the thing. Tongue piercings swell a lot. You went through 2 separate muscles. Snake eyes is side to side through the tongue. Maybe one side is more swollen than the other, so it's looking crooked. Okay. Did you take a picture of it when you first got it? Because if that's, look at that, maybe compare it to now. Maybe it's the swelling.
So there's a good chance it's not crooked. It's just uneven swelling. And after a little bit of time, that's going to come back down to straight.
Correct. But at the same time, like all my friends who are piercers, I know none of those guys will do any of the snake eyes piercings either. So I don't know the reputation of the piercer. It's possible it could be crooked too.
One never knows.
Yeah, 3 to 5 days for the swelling to go down, and that's the sure answer.
Then you'll know. So the Mountain Bandit wants to know, would you advise against getting a face piercing if you have acne? Do you feel like acne is going to affect adversely getting a piercing one way or the other, or not really?
If you have acne and you're applying a lot of like medicine and stuff to it, chemicals, things to kind of help treat it, if you're cleaning with a lot of soaps and so forth, that can be a real harsh healing process, and you might have a tough time healing it up. If it's just rough skin in that area, it's not going to be that big of a deal. Depends on the face piercing you're talking about. Now, if you want just like an eyebrow piercing, that shouldn't be a big deal. Now, if you're talking about doing like an anti-eyebrow or a surface piercing, that's going to be a lot tougher because that tissue needs to be not irritated and agitated to heal properly. So depends on what you're talking about, what piercing, but it can be done as long as it's not through the actual irritated tissue at that point in time.
So Jasmine says hello from Ireland.
Hi, Jasmine from Ireland.
And she's been thinking of getting a dermal in her forehead. She's been pierced many times, but never had a dermal before. Mm-hmm. Do you have any advice? And overall, do you think it's worth it, as they can reject?
That's up to you. Now, when you get a dermal, you're going to have a small scar. Everyone's scars completely differently, but this is in the middle of your forehead. It's going to reject out. There's never any promises, but in my experience, 2 to 3 years seems to be the average lifespan of most dermals. I have seen some last 9 or 10 years. So every person's different. But if you don't mind the scar being there and you want to get it done, go for it. Now, personally, I stopped doing dermals. They're more problematic. I've seen more problems than ones that actually heal. So it's just not worth it for me to do. So I stopped doing them. I'll change the tops on them and I'll remove them, but I'm done putting them in.
We don't really put them in.
I'm just not a fan anymore.
I mean, I can see it because you're talking about something you're going to wear for 2 years and then have a scar on your forehead that you could potentially regret.
Mm-hmm. In general, you put these dermals in untraditional spots on your body because normal piercings won't work. So that's like more of the open spot where there's no ridges, like a forehead, a cheek, all these spots.
Collarbone, right.
Yeah. So they can leave really big scars. And if you don't mind the scar, go for it. But if that's an issue, don't get the piercing then.
So how long would it take you to change out all your jewelry?
That's a great question. When I've gone to the airport and I've had to put things in the past, half hour, 45 minutes. like my high nostrils, getting a tool up there to hold on to it, to separate those things. And of course, like I'm stubborn, I do it all myself. So
right.
If I had someone else do it, it'd be a lot quicker. But I remember trying to get retainers up there. It was really, really awkward. You got to be real careful because like my Doth, they have seam rings and they're gold. So you got to be careful with the tools you're using so you're not scratching and irritating it. The plugs and stuff, I just take them out. The holes really don't close. So it's fairly fast. It's just the high nostrils are a pain in the butt. And I actually have my nipples stretched to a 4 gauge and I have titanium rings, and trying to get those beads out is not easy.
Yeah. Oh, because you have to bend the whole ring.
They're captives.
Wow.
Yeah. The tool, and that big of a tool next to your nipple. That's a scary.
Got to basically carry a toolbox to be able to take your jewelry out. So Zach Attacks Fat says that he's planning on getting a forward helix to rook orbital and wants them on both ears. One at a time, or just go get it done with both sides at once?
One at a time. Okay, I'm looking for an ear, the best ear to use. I have 3 different samples here. Now, what we're talking about here is forward helix to rook, correct?
Yes.
Which means this right here is the forward helix. So we're doing a ring here, and then what we would do is we would rotate the ring down to go through the rook as well. So you'd have a ring come out here, going through the rook and out, and like so. Can you see? Does that make sense, Jared?
Yep.
Yeah. So a lot of times we do like circular barbells or a captive bead ring, but you have to have the exact anatomy for this, and you do not want to irritate this and cause it to reject out. Orbitals are so hard to heal, and you're getting a very, very intense orbital. Not intense, but a tough angle and a tough one to heal. So I would do one side, heal it all the way up, and then I'd move to the other. Good luck on that. Find a good piercer. That's an awesome piercing. I've only done like 2 or 3 in my whole career. Yeah.
So Emily wants to know how to know if her dermals are rejecting. She has 3 dermals below the collarbone, and she feels like they're getting kind of loose and look red.
Sometimes that happens. You got to look at the distance from your skin to the top of the dermal. Maybe take a picture with your camera, and you're going to want to hold the camera against your chest and try to take a parallel shot shooting up so you can see how much gap there is. Now, if you do this and maybe a week later and you take another picture and it seems like it's way further out, it's rejecting because it will get red and those feet will start surfacing. Sometimes you're going to see one foot come out and then the other's going to be buried in there. Sometimes they just come out at the whole thing all at once. So keep your eye on it, take some pictures. And if you're really nervous about it, go talk to your piercer and see what they say.
Now, Abby has a nose piercing with a stud. She's never taken it out before because it's her first one, and she's not sure what the back looks like. So how does she change it? How can she determine what type of jewelry's in, or does she just need to have someone else help?
Sure. It's probably one of 3 different types of pieces of jewelry. The first one we're going to talk about is a threadless piece or a threaded piece. I'm drawing right now. Give me 1 second. All right. So it could be something similar to this where it has a flat disc on the inside like this, and then it also has the post coming through, and either a threadless top or a threaded top. The threadless means the pieces are just pressed in, they're held in by pressure. The threaded top means you just need to unscrew it. The other option would be a nostril screw. So it's similar to this where it has the bead on top, it comes down, and then has a right angle and a little kind of a hook that sits flat on the inside. These are easier to tell what style you have because if you've had that metal booger hanging out of your nose or it pokes and goes up, you have the nostril screw. You just need to clean it, make sure you get all the crusties off there, and the jewelry does come out a little bit easier. Now, if you have the threadless or the threaded piece in there, you're probably going to need to go see a piercer because we're going to stick a tool on the inside of your nose to hold onto that disc to be able to pop the gem off or unscrew it for you. If you can do it yourself, more power to you, but it's not an easy thing to do. Best word of advice I can give to anyone changing jewelry, no matter what jewelry it is, put a towel down over your sink. You will drop your jewelry.
So the ethereal goddess got her septum pierced 2 weeks ago, and the exit side appears to be larger than the entrance side. Is that normal? Seems weird because the needle is of a uniform thickness, right?
The exit side seems bigger than the entrance.
That's what we're reading here.
I don't know. The only thing I can think of is sometimes our anatomy, like if you had a slightly deviated septum, if your septum comes a little lower, you might be able to see one side more than the other. But I can almost guarantee you that the jewelry is consistent in thickness, so it's going to be the same thickness on both sides. If it's just done, sometimes if you had a little crusty on there or a scab and that got pulled off, you might have a little bit of a dimple in there, but the hole going through there is going to be all the same size. I don't know why else you would say this. The only other thing I can think of would be as if you had an allergic reaction to the jewelry and your skin's growing away from it, but it would be the same on both sides.
Right. And this is only a 2-week-old piercing, so we could just be going through the process.
I think you're just being too critical and looking too much into there. Again, if you're worried, go talk to your piercer, but I don't think it's anything to be worried about.
So Isabella has an ear piercing in the lobe, feels like it's totally healed. However, when she uses the saltwater solution the piercer gave her on it, dirt comes out of the hole again.
Dirt comes out. You can be fully healed. Here's the deal. You heal that tube of scar tissue in there, it's kind of open. So sometimes dirt, things like that can go inside there. And when you're actually cleaning it, it needs to come back out. Sometimes when you have an old piercing and it closes up and you squeeze, it's almost like popping a pimple where you get a little bit of stuff coming out of there. That's just the dead skin cells and things like that. That does happen. And when you have an open hole like that, things will get in there. That is totally normal. Yeah.
So too much for one sitting, second nostril, septum, Ashley, and tongue. Bang it all out at once.
Second nostril, Ashley, septum, and tongue.
Yeah.
Now, if you're saying second nostril as in just like 1, 2, or are you talking?
I think they have an existing nostril, probably another one next to it.
That's a lot of oral piercings to be swollen for, but I still think you can handle it. Just don't expect to speak normally for a couple of days because you're going to have a swollen lip, which is going to cause a little bit of lisp, and a swollen tongue at the same time. So, yeah, if you're going to be in for a couple of days, yeah, you should be fine as long as you're not healing anything else.
So Jody has an industrial piercing that's over a year old, and it's still bleeding and angry. She doesn't sleep on it, doesn't use headphones. What can we do to make it heal? What could be the problem?
It could be the jewelry. You could be having a reaction to that.
Could be the angles of the piercing.
It could be the angles of the piercing. I was going to bring that up. Good point, Jared. Now,
I'm slowly learning hanging out with you.
Now, if you're getting an industrial piercing, we're talking a bar that goes side to side across the ear like so. Now, if the first piercing was pierced at this angle and the second piercing was pierced at this angle, when you put them in there, it's twisting and contorting your ear. So you need both of those angles to be at that same angle, not like this. Because when we twist it, the ears twist and that causes the bump. So if you were to go into your piercer, have them take out one side and the jewelry just kind of pops up and it's not sitting at the right angle, you probably won't ever get rid of that bump or the irritation or even get it to heal all the way up. So that would be my guess. It's either bad quality jewelry or they're pierced improperly or you're doing some crazy aftercare stuff on there. But it sounds like you did your homework and you're doing things the right way. And thanks for asking your question so thoroughly. That's a good job.
So Missy has earlobe piercings that are starting to get pulled down in a line from the earrings. Mm-hmm. Would going up a size from a standard earlobe help prevent this?
Yes. A lot of times you're wearing too thin. It's like a cheese cutter effect, especially if you're wearing dangly jewelry and things like that. So thicker jewelry will stop and prevent that from happening. Definitely get some thicker jewelry.
Excellent.
And lighter jewelry.
So how do you put on the circle rings with one ball on the one end? I never understood how those work. I think they were talking about a captive bead ring, perhaps?
Yeah. So a captive bead ring. Ooh, that was a really good circle. I'll show you. Don't worry. So
it's a great circle, Scott.
Thank you. This is a captive bead ring where we have the ring going all the way around, and then the bead has a dimple on both sides where the ring pinches onto that dimple. Now, getting these on and off has been a pain in the butt since the beginning of time. Sometimes they make these where they're welded on one side where you can actually just twist the ring to the side, put it in and line it back up. Otherwise, you twist the ring like this, the bead falls out, you slide the ring in, and then you twist the ring back, and then the ring, you need to open up just enough to pinch to pop it into place. Now, when you're putting this bead in, you have to wash your hands with a lot of soap, sometimes even rubbing alcohol to get any oils and whatnot off your hands so you have a better grip on the bead. Don't use the mirror. You can kind of use the mirror to kind of look and get a ballpark idea, but everything's going to be backwards. So like figure out where it's holding on your hand, and then once you just got to push till it pops into place. It's really tricky. It's easier to get the bead out than get it in. And after about 5 or 10 minutes of struggling with it, if you can't get it, go see your piercer.
So bridge piercing and glasses, can they get along together, or is it one or the other?
Yeah, they can get along together, but you got to have the right anatomy and the right glasses for it. If you have the glasses that are resting right directly on there, it's going to cause a problem. It's the exact same thing with a nostril piercing. If you're wearing glasses that ride low and you have that piercing right where that thing rests, it's not going to work for you. So you have to have the glasses and bring them in when you're getting the piercing and make sure it works for you. I've also gone in and gotten sunglasses, and I find like I have to go specific ones with the pads. Ones with the pad, so it's away from the actual piercing itself.
Oh, so you just got to find the ones that fit you and stay away from your bridge.
Yes.
Very cool. So Chantal, I'm sorry, I tried. My navel piercing sometimes hurts at the top of the top, not the lower. And while I'm cleaning it, I push the piercing up and I see a water bump on the piercing. So we're talking about like the top of a navel piercing. Mm-hmm. What's our best plan to try to...
Navel piercings, most of the problems we have today are because of the pants we're wearing because they're rubbing right up against it. If it's on the top up there, I'm guessing your pants are rubbing directly on it. Find some a little lower rise pants. If you have a really big gem or a big ball, or if you have a prong setting holding on to gem so it's getting caught on things, maybe find a lower profile piece of jewelry that might work better for you. But generally, it's the pants that are causing the problems, especially if it's on the top. That means something's rubbing up against it.
Pushing in.
Yeah.
Florence has triple lobes on both ears, but one of them is poorly placed. They've had the jewelry out of it for a year, and it's not going anywhere. Is it possible to somehow make it close?
Thinking outside the box here, the only way to really make it close is to irritate it, which means almost like maybe run a piercing needle through it to like make an open wound again and let it close. overstretch it, which sucks, like rip it, like put in big jewelry and kind of rip it. So it's irritated and that allows it to close, or go see a doctor and see if they can close it up. But it's kind of tough to do.
So you're saying basically the inside edge is now kind of like closed and healed at that fistula you talk about.
Yeah.
It would need to be like reopened and wet again, and then it would want to reseal.
Raw tissue to adhere to itself to reclose. Because right now that tube of scar tissue is so established, it's shrunk, but it's still there.
It's still there.
Okay. And then if we pierce right next to it, a lot of times it just falls into that old existing hole. Now you have a longer scar and it's in the same place.
It's still crooked like the first one was.
Sucks. I battle this every single day. Crooked lobe piercings are so tough. Now here's the thing. It might be off a little tiny bit. Find jewelry that works. Maybe bigger head jewelry or bigger gems so they get closer together or further apart so it can hide it. Maybe change to rings instead of studs or vice versa. I can almost guarantee you most people won't ever point this out because most people don't see it. Have you ever noticed anyone else's really crooked lobe piercings? Because everyone has crooked lobe piercings.
It seems like a lot of people get it done as babies.
Yeah.
And then it's going to migrate throughout your entire life. It's almost a surprise if it is straight at 30.
You're growing so fast as a baby. I mean, from week to week, you double in size pretty much. And it's no surprise it grew crooked.
Right.
And let alone like piercing a baby like that small of a target. Like it looks pretty centered.
But is it once that ear is bigger?
Yeah.
That's a great
that's kind of the
point.
factor. But like I said, it's maybe find some different jewelry that works for you. It's a tough situation. Sorry. But I guarantee you, it's just your piercer and you and all of us now who know.
Greetings from Tunisia. They appreciate you taking the time to share your knowledge with everyone.
I appreciate you tuning in and asking questions. Greetings.
So big hugs from Chile. Why does silver jewelry stain the skin? Is it just a chemical thing? Or like you were saying, it's the oxidization that forms on the outside?
It starts turning black. Like silver and gold, over time, this stuff builds.
It's actually a reaction with oxygen.
Yeah.
It's the same as rust. Iron develops rust on the outside. So like that blackness is silver's version of rust.
Thank you. Yes, exactly. That's all it is. And it's carbon-based, I imagine. Carbon, hence the black
it all depends on what
what's kind of seeping into the skin because it's thinner tissue and just soaks in like ink over time. It's just gonna.
So it's just a chemical reaction. All you can really do to avoid that is to clean it, to polish your silver
oxidation
regularly.
Is rust, but there's different forms of rust, I guess. So yeah, keep your jewelry clean and wear titanium, not silver.
All right.
Silver makes great necklaces and bracelets and rings, but as far as
not internal, not if it's in a wound.
Not a fan of it.
So my nostril nearly fell out tonight. Is there any way I can keep it more secure at night?
Curious what kind of jewelry you have in there. A lot of times when people have nose L's in there, which is basically a nostril screw, except it just has the right angle like this. So instead of having, the bead and then it does a little twist like that, it actually has just the L, which the twist helps keep it in just a little bit better. So if you have one of these in there, maybe have the jewelry readjusted or get in a nostril screw or a threadless piece. The ones where the gems has a disc on the back and the gem just pushes in on the top. That's going to be your best bet. The other thing I was going to say is if you have a ring in there, if you had a ring and it's fallen out, I'm guessing you might have something called a nostril nail, where it has a disc on the inside like this, and the ring goes around and just has this open gap. So you put it from the inside, and that disc hangs on the inside. It looks like it's a complete ring, but if it spins, it can just fall out. So either a complete ring or a better piece of jewelry.
Excellent.
Yep.
And just to clarify to Obasan, even if you think you are allergic to silver or gold, you'll be okay with titanium. Yes. Titanium is very few people are allergic to it. It's what they use for implants during surgeries. So
bolts and plates and everything. And
so you'll be able to definitely use titanium. Just tell your piercer that you want titanium.
It's kind of one of your go-to things. That's why we go to this one. It's like no one's really allergic to it. I have met one person in 27, 28 years, and I can't 100% verify it, but I was like, look, no one's allergic to it. And the kid looked at me and says, that's what my doctor said too, but the test says I'm allergic to this one. I mean, that's good. It's possible with anything, but this is as safe as it generally gets. So
Love from Finland. More amazing fans. Just sending love.
Awesome. Hi, Finland.
Okay, so what do you think? Can gold and silver jewelry be mixed? I suppose they mean from a stylistic standpoint.
Yes. It's a tough thing to do. I've seen people pull off the gold silver mix. Sometimes I have to, because sometimes the plugs I have in my nose, finding solid gold is really, really, really expensive. So yeah, you can mix the two. But the way I do it is like, if I were to have it'd be like maybe a gold bead with a silver ring, and then you might do the vice versa over here, where you'd have the silver or a gold ring with a silver bead and mix and match that way. It can be done, but it's a tough thing to do. I know Leroy Body Jewelry has a mixture of the two, where they do like the combo thing where they have gold tops and silver or titanium wearing surfaces. But it's kind of up to you. But you can mix and match colors and you can make it work. But sometimes you just have to get creative and think outside the box and go with it. You can do it.
So Delaney got a nostril piercing a year ago, had an irritation bump about a month ago, and it went away quickly, but it still hurts super bad. And they haven't changed their jewelry recently either. Any tips?
Change the jewelry. If it hurts really bad, something's going on, whether it's an allergy to metal, whether there's a nick or scratch in the jewelry.
Something's up.
Something's up, yeah. If the bump's gone away and the soreness is still there, yeah, change out the jewelry. That'd be my first thing.
So, recommended method for stretching a cartilage piercing, not punching, but we're talking a slow stretch.
Yes. Taking your time. Generally, I tell people 6 to 8 weeks minimum between each stretch. That's for an earlobe. For cartilage, when I'm stretching my nostril or my conch, several months between each stretch. And there's certain companies like Gorilla Glass that will make in-between sizes. So if you're going from like a 6 gauge up to a 4 gauge, maybe just go up to the 6 to the 5 instead of the full 4. And it's a slower process, a more gentle process. And it'll still allow you to stretch at the same rate, but get you to newer sizes quicker and comfortably.
So K-Dub has had their tragus pierced for 5 months. Doesn't hurt. Seems fine. Cool to change jewelry?
Should be totally fine. Congratulations on healing that up nicely. Yes.
All right.
But don't take it out and go shopping for jewelry and then try to put it in later. It still can close up quick, but you're totally safe to change it.
So getting a septum piercing when you've got to wear a mask, is that a bad idea? Or
no, it really shouldn't interfere too much. Just be aware that if your septum piercing's touching the mask and you're wearing a dirty mask, those dirty germs from your mask are going into your open wound. So clean mask. The other thing is, depending on the mask you're wearing, if it's like one of those mesh ones where things could get caught on there, you might want to be careful of that. If it's something totally smooth, like a full cloth or full paper, you're fine with it.
Is it okay to use hand sanitizer on your piercing?
No.
What if it's a hand piercing?
Yeah. Shame on you for piercing your hand.
It's like that's a very dirty thing. Your hand touches everything.
Hand sanitizer, you're trying to get the germs off the outside of your skin. You wouldn't want to put hand sanitizer up your nose and your mouth, Jared.
No.
Yeah.
What?
But yeah, you don't want to put alcohol or peroxide in a piercing, and hand sanitizer is almost all alcohol. So no, don't put it inside your piercing.
All right. So Fiona wants to know if it's okay to moisturize the skin around a healing piercing if you're getting like dryness and flakiness, because she's just cleaning it with the saline solution. Is it okay to use a little lotion in the area? Make
sure the lotion is fragrance free, because if that gets inside the piercing a little bit, it's going to sting and burn and really upset your piercing. So fragrance free. Also keep in mind, when you first get a piercing, you're going to swell. That skin that top layer can die, and you're going to get a little bit of flaking. That's totally normal. The other thing I want to say is make sure it's the proper sea salt mixture. If you're using the saltwater mixture, which I don't condone, I really suggest using the wound wash spray, what you're using. But sometimes those wound wash sprays can dry the skin out. So if it's got other chemicals, enzymes, different things in there to help healing, maybe find one that's more basic. But if it's a new piercing, skin does flake off, and just, no moisturizer, just no fragrance.
So Tyra's got a question. It sounds like her piercer may have messed up. She got a septum piercing and the jewelry is too small. Okay. Can I get it switched to a bigger one or should I wait a few weeks?
If it's too small and it's pinching and you don't have room for swelling, you need a larger one. Otherwise, you're not going to heal because it's constantly irritated. So go in right away, get a larger piece of jewelry put in there. It shouldn't be an issue. And if they say they don't want to change it out because it's too soon to change it, if it's causing a problem, you're never going to heal. Then you might as well just take it out. But if that's the case, find another piercer.
So Gloria wants to know, she had a nostril piercing, had it for a while. It wasn't fully healed. Took it out. So now it's closed, but how long should she wait to make sure it's fully closed before she gets it re-pierced?
It needs to look good. And I tell my customers a minimum of 1 month. Sometimes if you're piercing through that same spot and you can still see like that discoloration of tissue, like from the scarring, and you pierce next to it, that scarring doesn't really go away. You're still going to have that discolored tissue. So make it look as normal as possible before you pierce it. But I tell people minimum of 1 month.
So Shane asks, do I need to stretch my PA?
That's what all the cool kids are doing.
So yes, if you want to be cool, Shane, you must stretch your PA.
You don't need
no,
to stretch
that's peer
your
pressure.
PA. Yeah,
I say you do it.
You do?
No, I'm kidding.
Don't fall for peer pressure. If you want a larger piece of jewelry in there, go for it. In my experience, larger pieces of jewelry and genitals are generally more comfortable for guys just because it's like that cheese cutter effect. If you have a real thin wire pulling on there, it's going to be uncomfortable. So if it's a little bit uncomfortable and you feel it a little bit, stretch it up and it will get more comfortable for you. Now, I will say that probably like the 2 gauge, 0 gauge is kind of the point of no return where it won't shrink back up to normal for you. So keep in mind, the bigger you go, the more likely you are to have to sit down if you have to urinate too.
The things
I'm just being
learn.
honest here.
I mean, we're here to learn stuff.
Everyone's learning something, whether you want to or not.
So Salem says, this is way out here, but is it possible to anchor something to your skull?
Anchor something to your skull.
I believe they're talking like when you'd see someone that might have like horn implants or
Yes.
spikes. Are those things anchored to the skull or are those only just below the surface of the skin? Okay. If someone grabbed that and yanked it, is it like bone attached?
It could be. Chances are, no, it's not. Now, I was talking to someone a while ago and we were talking about medical coral. Have you ever heard of medical coral?
No, what's medical coral?
So you can shape this into the shape of a horn. And this, now when you're getting horns done, you do them in generations. And like almost always, it's going to be silicone based. So it's soft, it doesn't stick. And you kind of create a little pocket and you kind of put it inside there. Like I was talking to said that they make medical coral where you could shape it to a horn and this stuff will fuse to bone. And vessels and stuff will grow through it. And supposedly, if you had it in there long enough, if you fuse these to your skull and you died and you kept your skull or donated to science, your skull will have horns.
That it's actually
it
a
looks
part
like
of your skull.
Horns attached to the skull, supposedly.
Because it's like a bone graft almost.
I don't know if anyone offers this, but I heard it's medical coral. They do this for like bone graft type stuff. And So is it possible? Yes. Is anyone doing it? I don't know. That's really cool. But yeah. So good question. I can't believe I had the answer to that one.
So a PG tree got a lip piercing last Saturday. It swelled up, but it feels as if the back of the jewelry is being pushed into the wound.
I'm sorry, which piercing?
A lip piercing.
Okay.
It sounds to me as it's overswelling, that they've not left enough space their piercer has not left enough space to swell. Like, does she need to go back to the piercer?
Maybe. It's how old?
Say I got a lip piercing last Saturday.
Okay. Generally 3 to 5 days is the average amount of time for swelling for a piercing. So you should be at the tail end. But if it's being extra irritated and getting sucked in, that might take just a little bit longer. My number one question is are you doing anything for swelling right now? Ibuprofen, Aleve, or Advil? Get that, Jared? Not and, but or. Get the swelling down. Cold things, popsicles, ice cream, ice water will also help quite a bit. So it's normal for it to go into the lip a little tiny bit to create that pocket, which is kind of a good thing because it's pulling it away from your teeth and your gums. But if your skin is closing up around it and you have to keep popping it back out real hard, that's a problem. Then you should probably get a longer post put in there. But just a little bit of pocket, the swelling should be down any day now. I would say give it another day unless it's really, really getting sunk in there.
All right. Even though there are many questions left, we are running out of time. So we're only going to try to get a few more in before we go. Heidi wants to know, why did you stretch your nipples? Was it for aesthetics or the added feeling or maybe something else? Why'd you choose that?
Purely for aesthetics. I'm a pretty big guy. I'm like 6'2", 250 pounds, and I had 14 gauge rings in my nipples. And they just didn't look right. They looked tiny on me and it didn't look proportioned. And I wasn't happy until I had them stretched up to the 4 gauge, which looks proportioned to me. So that's the way I like the way it looks on me. Just like my nostrils. I know they look big to a lot of you. To me, they look the right size. It's just what we visualize in our head. Some people like long hair. Some people like short hair. I like big nipple rings on me.
That's what it is. Just style. What do we like?
It's that simple. Yeah.
So Sherry has a microdermal on the upper left cheekbone that was done a year ago this month.
Yep.
The top part of the anchor is rejecting. Is it possible to force it back in, or do we just need to have this removed?
Have it removed right away. If you get it removed right away, it's going to leave a lot less scarring, and there's a better chance you can get it done again. If it rejects all the way out, you get a bigger scar and less of a chance of it ever working. So go get it removed right away. If it comes out, I don't ever see them getting fixed.
So Kieran wants a septrill. What size does the septum have to be stretched to?
The same Kieran?
Yes.
Awesome. I say a 2 gauge. For me, that's the minimum size where I feel comfortable putting the receiving tube so I can pierce into the receiving tube. So 2 gauge is the minimum. You might be able to go a little smaller depending on your piercer, like the size of the receiving tube they have. But talk to them, see what they say. I have specific receiving tubes that are like straight this way, and then the hole goes in this way. So I'm able to stick it in and pierce directly in to make sure it's nice and perpendicular.
Lane really wants a septum, but doesn't know if they have this sweet spot people talk about. Is there a way to check for yourself?
Yeah. Your pinkies. Basically, you're going to stick your pinkies in your nose and go all the way towards the front. Now you're going to feel your cartilage get real thick on the bottom, and then you're going to get nice and thin, and your pinkies should almost touch. Now, sometimes you can almost separate the cartilage by pushing a little bit harder to kind of feel where that sweet spot is. Sometimes it's a real large area. Sometimes it's a little smaller. Everyone has one. It's just how big it is.
So it's like an hourglass almost, like the thin part in the center of the hourglass is what you're describing there?
In a way, yeah. Let me draw this too. I believe septums are kind of like this. Towards the front, there's more of a sweet spot, and as it goes back, it seems to get a little thinner as the cartilage kind of tightens up. So, like I said, it's way towards the tip. When you do this, the ring should hang. So it's almost like there's a little pocket, and it's like right up in that area. You should be able to feel it by saying, how many people have their fingers in their nose right now?
82 people have their fingers.
Everyone has one. You just figure out where it's at and how easy it is.
Well, 83 if I count.
Okay. Sweet. Cool.
Okay, so we'll just hit like one or two more real quick. We have several questions about getting rid of piercing bumps. So if you could give us a nice one more general, like if we have a bump on our piercing,
yes.
What are we doing wrong?
All
what
right.
can we fix?
To get rid of a piercing bump, get rid of the problem. The problem is irritation, whether it's on your belly button, your nostril, your eyebrow. If you're sleeping on it, towels and shirts are getting yanked on it, rags, loofahs, and sponges. One good irritation can cause a bump to happen. Constant irritation can cause the bump to happen. Once the irritation goes away, the bump should go away on its own. Now, a lot of people think that these bumps are pimples, and if you pick at it, you try to pop it, it's going to help get rid of it. This is the biggest source of irritation and will cause your bump to get bigger. So if you have a ring in your nostril or ring in whatever, maybe change to the stud. Don't over clean it. Once a day is generally enough. And sometimes emu oil which can really calm and soothe a bump down. You put one little drop on there on your piercing, and that could help too. The big thing is figure out why the bump's there. Did you hit it, bump it, irritate it? Is something, are you sleeping on it? Is it chemicals? Are you using peroxide, rubbing alcohol? There's so many factors. Your body can heal a small wound. Let it. Leave it be. All right.
And one last question from Stephen M. Had their earlobes pierced about 9 weeks ago. Doesn't hurt at all when they wiggle it around. It isn't swollen. The skin looks normal. But in your earlobe piercing vid, they didn't catch a healing time. Is it okay to change it now?
Should be totally fine. 6 to 8 weeks. I wish I would have put that on there, but that's month and a half to 2 months is the average healing time for an earlobe. Sometimes they're a little longer, but it sounds like you're fully healed. If it doesn't hurt, you don't have crusties, go ahead and change your jewelry.
And
congratulations.
And an interesting question on that. Now that it's okay to change it, how often can he change it? Can he change his jewelry twice a day?
Listen to your body. Listen to your body. If you're changing your jewelry a lot and it's not getting irritated, cool, no problem. If you're changing it 2 or 3 times a day and your ear's getting red and sore and it hurts when you start changing it, stop. Listen to your body. Generally changing it out every day shouldn't be that big of an issue. Earlobes are kind of different though. Some people can leave them up for years at a time. Sometimes they start closing in 5 minutes. So I do suggest keeping jewelry in there, but yeah, you're totally fine to change it. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for sending your questions. We had some great questions. Thanks, Kieran, for sending in that video so we could watch the nasal lang. And of course, make sure to hit the like, make sure to subscribe, keep putting holes in your body. We'll see you all in the next video.